So I binged Akibarangers so you didn't have to, and to be honest, it was pretty good. Hey everybody, it's me, the Storyteller. So after seeing how much love and likes I got for the Akiba out of context reaction video I did, I decided to actually watch the entire 2 seasons of Akibarangers. And so now I'm going to go in depth and talk about it in my review, but I will say this, I really fell in love with Super Sentai a little bit more after watching this series. So enough of that, let's actually get into the actual review.
The story.
So in Akibarangers, we follow our 3 unlikely heroes, Nobu Akage, Akiba Red, Mitsuki Ayagi, Akiba Blue, and Yomori Mogi, Akiba Yellow. And these 3 were recruited by Hiryo Hasuke to become the unofficial Super Sentai heroes known as Akibarangers. And the reason I call them our unlikely heroes is because they're very, very different from other Super Sentai characters. Yumaria is a cosplayer who loves Super Sentai, but leans more into cosplay and also likes yaoi. Mitsuki, aka Akiba Blue, is a young high school girl who's into martial arts and does like anime stuff as well as Super Sentai, though she is not a super ultra fan of the franchise and everything, but she still loves, watching Super Sentai as well as anime. And finally, Nobuo, aka Akiba Red, who is a middle-aged delivery man who is very obsessed with Super Sentai and is very much an otaku. And by obsessed, I really mean obsessed. Like, this dude took a bottle of green tea, doused it on himself while he reenacts a scene from an episode. Like, that type of obsessed. So why did fate choose these 3 to be our heroes? Well, this is where Akibarangers is vastly different from any other Super Sentai series. You see, in Akibarangers, there is no real monsters, there's no real threat to the Earth. See, everything that happens within Super Sentai, them fighting monsters and seeing monsters, that's technically, in simple terms, all in their head. They essentially have delusionary battles with the villains and monsters in the series. By that I mean, when they actually transform and fight the monsters, it's not happening in the real world, it's happening in the delusional world. In the real world, where they think they're fighting monsters, they're actually throwing punches and kicks at the air. That's right, these guys are essentially schizophrenic Power Rangers. But later on in the first season, their delusionary battles start to break out into the real world as one of their main villains actually comes to life in the actual world. And from then on, their delusions start having an effect on reality, as not only do their monsters come into the real world, but they themselves in their Akibarangers forms can also come into the real world as well. And in the second season, where we get a new Akiba Blue, she believes, and this is due to her minimal knowledge on Super Sentai, she believes that Super Sentai technically started in America called Powerful Rangers, which is actually called Power Rangers in America, and then eventually came to Japan, which is not true. It actually started in Japan and then went to America. But because she believed it started in America, reality changed, so that way everybody that knows about Super Sentai in Japan believes that everything started in America. And this is where I'm going to stop right here, because if I continue, I feel like I'm going to have to go for a full explanation of everything of the first 2 seasons. So I'm going to stop it here, and let's head to the next section.
CGI and choreography.
Now the CGI in Akibarangers looks bad, and I think that's actually done on purpose because, again, Akibarangers is essentially a parody of Super Sentai, which is why it looks like they only focused on the CGI for a couple of hours before they threw their hands up and said, fuck it, we'll just leave it as is. Which can also be said about the action choreography, as some of the fight scenes in this series doesn't look as crisp as other Super Sentai fight scenes. Also, to kind of go back to the CGI, I didn't notice that Akiba Yellow's chest inflates when her sign goes on her chest plate. I was literally like halfway through the first season when I saw her change, and I saw that happen. I was like, wait a minute, hold on a second. And like every time now that they transform, I couldn't not unsee that. So that was something funny to realize halfway through the first season.
Other Rangers and side characters.
Now in Akiba Ranger, you're gonna see a lot of Super Sentai Rangers that do make an appearance in this series. Now I will say this, sometimes the episodes do kind of focus on these Rangers, and sometimes they're just there as more of a guest character. Or they essentially start as a side character that helps out the Rangers and immediately become a weapon for them to use. Yeah, these Rangers literally come to help out the Akiba Rangers for them to only turn into the weapon they need for that episode. And then eventually they become a super buster cannon. Yeah. Though it's only a few teams and not the entire franchise. What I also like what the series does is that it also kind of gives you a little bit of information about each series that it has in the series itself. Though it's not a lot that you had like to go through an entire episode explaining the entirety of one series. It's just a little bit of information, which I think is purposely done to kind of pique your interest about that series. Like how my interest was piqued when one of the commenters told me about Red Hawk, who was from the Jetman series. And another time where in the series I found about Die Ranger. I'm not sure if that's the actual name. It's the Ranger ones that where they actually know Kung Fu and everything. And how that one got peaked because in one episode they reenact a fight scene from it, which I went to watch on YouTube, and that was a bloody fight right there. Now with side characters, we don't really get a lot with them. I mean, with Nobuo's boss, who is in the show but is not really always in the show, we really don't know much about her. You know, we don't know anything besides her being his boss and that she hates when he just goofs around and doesn't take his job seriously. Even with Hiroyo's assistant, we don't actually even know much about her. Hell, she's in the show as like a side person that tells about information and everything, but she's not really fleshed out a lot. Honestly, I'm kind of interested how they actually met, and you know, like what's the story behind her working with her. And it's very kind of curious that like within the 2 seasons we don't know much about her assistant. And finally, Sayaka, who kind of got written out of the show in the first season, and it's weird because I was kind of interested to see how her and Nobuo's relationship was going to kind of play through the series, because to me she kind of did seem like an interesting character, as well as like a character who would start from like this office worker and eventually become not an otaku but somewhat interested in Super Sentai series and everything, because you know, like again, she kind of seemed like someone that was interested in Nobuo but you know wasn't really kind of sure about everything. But I was interested to see how everything was going to play out with her, but she just kind of got ran out of the show around like the 4th episode. I mean, we do get a few phone calls with her later on in the series, but she stopped appearing after that. She just didn't appear anymore after the 1st season. Now, there are some actors that do make an appearance in this show that are from other Super Sentai shows, but there's also actors that actually help shape Super Sentai as a whole. But I'm not going to go too deep into that because I feel like you guys should just watch that on your own.
Conclusion.
So guys, after everything, I like the comedy, I like the characters, the fight scenes and everything was pretty funny, was pretty good. So I think for Akiba Ranger, I'm going to give it a 8 out of 10. In my honest opinion, it was good. It was nice. It wasn't like this little quick TV series that I can just watch on the summertime. And you know, and I think anybody who likes Super Sentai or who's currently getting into it should watch Akiba Ranger, because it is a nice and short and simple series. But now I'm going to talk about something that I didn't really want to talk about, but I think I should, and that is the ending of the series. So if you don't want to see how this series ends, just skip this and just go to a different video, because after this it's the end of the video. So if you don't want to be spoiled for the ending, just skip it. So I'll give you guys a couple seconds to allow yourself to either stay or to skip this video. So I'm assuming you're sticking around to hear about the ending of the show, and that's just fine. Just again, you're going to be spoiled about this. So at the end of the show, the Akibarangers fight an alien army and sacrifice themselves to destroy the mothership. That was in episode 12, and in episode 13, it's shown that they actually died and now they're just spirits. Now, there are some things that I like and dislike when it comes to writing. I do like when a adoptive father gets a daughter or son, and then we see a series where it plays out how the relationship kind of grows. But the one thing I hate is when stories and movies always end on a somber or sad note. And it's not because like I hate it like in a story-wise, but I hate it because it hits me in the feels so much. Like, I will never not get hit in the feels when it comes to the ending of the Iron Giant movie, or when it comes to the ending of Where the Red Fern Grows. So when Akibaranger ended on a somber note, it did kind of hit me in the feels, so yeah. But that's it for me, guys. I hope you go out and watch Akibaranger, and I'll see y'all next time.